com to nominate the following shows: Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in the categories of education and also storyteller drama. The Centralist in the category of politics and news. That's with show host Joe Montaldo. Science and Beyond in the category of science and medicine, also with show host Joe Montaldo. The Outer Realm in the category of society culture, with show hosts Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. And the Pittsburgh Paranormal Chasing Prophecy in the category of religion and spirituality. There's another category that opened up for us recently, the People's Choice, so please select for this category as well. Go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 5 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com. And remember, voting ends July 31st, so go ahead and get your votes in.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Outer Realm Wednesday night edition with myself, Michelle Desrochers. We all know. Of course, I think it's on the screen. And Amelia Pisano. Anyway, we're broadcasting live here via International Public Radio on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM in New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. So huge thank you to Folgers. Love you muchly. Just saying. Love
Very
you muchly. Yeah. In order to participate in tonight's show, please pop on over to United Paranormal Radio, International Public Radio pages, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials on YouTube. So please subscribe. Also, please find us on Twitch or Twitter and our 3 Facebook network pages. If you want an immediate response, you are better on UFO Paranormal Radio, and please tag Amelia. Otherwise, we can see all of your comments. We may not be able to address them all, but we will do our very best. So this evening, we do welcome back Shawn Williamson all the way from Scotland, and he's going to be discussing his connection to the Sinclairs, Rosslyn Chapel, Templars coming to North America, pirates, just saying, and so much more. So you'll have to sit tight and get ready for another amazing segment. It's going to just be amazing. Plus, he has a Scottish accent. I like that.
Who doesn't?
Yeah,
It's like
saying.
that and South African are my 2 most favorite.
Yeah, there we go.
I can pick up a South African accent so easily. It's not funny. And it's hard, but it's funny. I have a lot of them in my life. Maybe that's why I've been exposed to it so much. Scottish is my absolute favorite.
Nice.
I have a friend who's from Scotland, and I'll call him just to listen to him talk. He's like, my voice isn't that great. I go, you have no idea. Seriously.
Just keep talking. I'll
You
be the
have
judge
no
of that.
idea.
Never mind.
I'm like, can you call me and just leave me a message? What are you talking about? I'm talking to you. Just call and leave a message. It just,
Yeah, just a minute who you are. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, I kind of want.
But say these
my
specific
voicemail.
words.
Yeah,
So,
say these specific words.
favorite words of
I
the
leave
day
you
or
everything
something.
when I die. That kind of thing, right?
I know. I'm just glad to be able to have made it because I had like this
Linda.
4-hour journey to finish picking up the rest of my
All your
Oddfellows
stuff.
sofas. No, apparently I have 10 sofas now that are like 8.5 dang feet long.
So you have 80 feet of seats.
Of sofa. They're all hand carved oak and really old
They're
and really
beautiful.
ornate. And it's Oddfellows. And of course, there's a penitentiary connection that they made it. And, so yeah, I went and picked up the rest. And I didn't expect the bonus extra one because Jesus, it was big. They're big. So I'm excited.
Heavy.
I'm just being cranky because I had 10 hours
it's
on the road.
It's a long
Bonus.
drive and it's a lot. So I get
It
it.
is.
I had the excruciating afternoon at the spa. It was terrible.
I know. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. I can't even complain. I mean, I wasn't even the one doing the lifting, but they're unloading it at the Burlington house right now. So it's like,
Yeah.
you run out of everything. No more room. No more storage units because
That
there's
is
too
so
many.
funny.
No
They're
more.
so beautiful though. I wish it was so funny.
They are.
Michelle's like, do you want one? I'm like, I don't have the room.
I will
She just
send
works
you.
the
I will.
laptop. I'm like,
We will bring you one. Just roll that 8-footer right in there.
I know. Just leave it in my entrance. It'll fit.
It will fit.
I know. That's the sad
It's
part.
like 8 feet 3 inches, something like that. They're beautiful.
Yeah,
Just
they
beautiful
are
pieces.
Beautiful couches.
Historical.
They're handmade,
Beautiful
historical.
condition.
You'll never find anything like this unless you have someone who is a craftsman. I just want to give a shout out to Linda Gunston. I am South African. You must have a beautiful voice because my friend Nicole Allen, I can't get enough of her mother talking. So
Run, Lindy.
I just love that.
Run, Lindy. Too bad we don't have call-ins.
I know.
Hi, Mary Glenn.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello
I know.
from Memphis. Woo.
Ooh, also nice accents.
Yes, there's a place I want to go. And it's not just for Graceland. I actually just want to go. But
have to do a little bit of tour, but first we have to get out of like plague jail here.
Oh my God. And it just looks never ending right now. I'm like, it's so funny because I got my nails done. I'm like, no red this time. And she's like, I have a funny feeling we're going to be locked down again. I said, and I can't. I go, you need to cut them. And
it's
you can't
true.
have them red. I said, you just need to cut them.
I know.
So they're short.
I know. Cut them.
They're short for me. You can't even see them because they're so new.
No. I prolong mine till I know because I can have them long. So
yeah. I know it's such a hard day for me lying there while she inserts my lashes.
That's a terrible thing while I'm slugging these antique 8-foot things. I can't even say I'm slugging. I'm watching everybody else do it.
You're watching and you have the sympathy. You're empathizing.
I know. They are going to go for sale though because I don't have the room. I don't have the room for them.
Believe me, Mary, if we come down there, we will tell you. We will tell you.
Yes.
Yeah. Right now, we can't even cross the border. We can't cross the border. So.
No, and if you come here, you can't get back into the U.S.
unless you fly in. You can't leave.
Even then,
Biden hasn't opened up the borders on the American side. They're all
getting
closed.
touchy. Well, we're not even open up till the middle of August. So, but for them
2nd.
coming in, but we can't leave. It's terrible. So
no,
but
we open up next Tuesday, but it looks like it's not going to happen because there is a pending strike. So I wouldn't make any plans to come here if I were you. That's all we're saying. Don't make any plans to drive across unless you know you can stay for a while because you will not be able to go home unless you fly. And if you drive in, you're going to have a problem with the car. So my recommendation is if you're driving in, drive in with a rental.
There we go. Yeah, because then they'll leave it here. So our guest is here. Yay. So let's bring him on in, please, Joe. Hey.
Hello,
hi, Shawn. How are you?
Hi, folks.
Hi. You're not in the car.
Yeah. No.
I wasn't sure how it was going to
go. No, all good. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Trust me.
Yeah,
that accent feeling all of us.
So you're traveling. And you hung out with a mutual friend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And on the way back to Cumbria, over the next few days, and all good.
Yes,
I've been in London working on a church.
Oh, that's
nice.
That's
quite interesting.
So what are you doing at the church? I was going to say to the church. What are you doing?
Well, it's actually architectural masonry and some wall building.
Nice.
And digging in the graveyard, kind of a thing. Not as a grave digger in that respect, but certainly make a good insert into a Dickens novel,
Oh, I wanted to do that. I'd love to do that. I'm the apprentice. Give me the shovel.
Wait a minute.
I'll dig everything up.
I'm the connection of Pisa. Let me come.
It doesn't matter. You don't need a connection to dig a hole, man. So
I've got sculptor DNA, but I can't do anything to help you other than dig. Did you take a lot of photos?
I took some, and obviously still being affected a little bit by the boring old lockdown. And I delivered another sculpture to that I'd been working on for the Chilean embassy.
Nice.
The guy that rescued Shackleton's crew, Luis Pardo.
Yes, you spoke about that briefly.
I may have mentioned it last time, but that's finished and with them now. So
congratulations.
Commission.
Nice. So You got to hang out today with our mutual friend Hamilton White.
Yes, that was interesting. That was en route.
It's always interesting with Hamilton. He always looks so disgruntled.
We adore him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we saw he showed me some of his fabulous carvings with Templar symbolism and Grail symbolism. Fabulous looking at those. And also I got to hold Hugh absolutely awesomely buzzing Templar sword, which was
yeah. Isn't it amazing?
I'm so jealous right now. She's so jealous. Okay. Wow. How did you feel when you grasped that in your hands? How did it feel?
Just incredible. I mean, the idea that these swords are still in existence is just mind-blowing, and it was very, very light. I didn't think it would be so light and well balanced.
So long.
Yeah, and very sharp as well.
And you felt comfortable holding it?
Yeah, I did actually. Okay. It did feel.
What they say, Shawn? If you feel comfortable holding it, it's yours. So you got to tell Hamilton that. If you have a comfort in the sword,
I think he's got a couple. I keep trying to dib stuff.
I don't see why he can't part with one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so we, I was lucky to go over a few things, and what Hamilton's like. He's a great guy, and we had a great chat there. With amongst all these sacred relics.
He's a wealth of information. He knows his pieces, and he's always open to interpretation or other people's perceptions and ideas, which is makes it interesting also.
And I know for a fact that if you bring him a meal from McDonald's, he'll give you something from the Templars.
I sent him stuff way the hell from here. I'm still waiting for my chalice.
It's too far away for you. But yeah, he loves McDonald's. We tease him about that all the time. But did he show you his golden arches? We almost fell over. He brought him up on screen.
Last time we were on, I said, "Okay, can you show us some relics?" He said,
"Everything
sure."
You have.
The McDonald's golden arches.
M sign. I'm like, really?
I'm like, thank you, Hamilton. That's wonderful. So you basically came across some carvings.
Yeah. Carvings with grails on them, and acts of worship, and the carvings themselves, and of course some other interesting objects. Some of the stuff he's got were fabulous, but I'd gone there really just to see the carvings that he'd brought back from Portugal, which were over the years fabulous stuff.
Yeah I like it.
Anything new that he shared?
Yeah, but I'm not sort of at liberty to mention it at the moment. So
they're on next month. We'll probe them next month.
He's on in 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll get him. So what's going on aside from your travel and you're working at the church and you're researching, you're sort of have your hands in a lot of different things, and you're going to present some stuff tonight that sounds pretty exciting. So where do you want to start with it?
Well, I thought I'd mention my book's not out, which is fiction, which is actually more fact in it than fiction, but I've couched it as fiction, called Questus.
Yes.
About the Grail Knight that comes back. It's based on, and there's not huge amounts of evidence to back this up, only, it's maybe intuition that the Templars were involved in protecting a sect of knights called Grail Knights. And these were more interested in gathering biblical knowledge and information. And it's about a Grail Knight that comes back, and oddly enough, in it, the Grail Knight is reconnected with a Grail sword. It's the famous Viking Ulfrabreck. It's very difficult to pronounce, but it was supposedly the best sword of all time. And the smelting techniques to create this Damascus-like steel, although more so, have never been really rediscovered. There are several versions of this sword around, but they reckon it was almost like a spring and a cart spring from an old car. It was you could bend it almost double, and it would spring back perfectly into position. So imagine that, sharp as well, and you've got really a formidable weapon. And we know that the Templars interacted with many different cultures, including the Vikings. In fact, there was probably Vikings amongst them,
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially if you're getting into the Sinclair line, like they that's part of their bloodline also, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I was sculptor to the clan Sinclair for several years, and we probably mentioned it before, but I carved sculpted the big carving of Prince Henry Sinclair up at Noss Head Lighthouse in the north of Scotland. So I got to see, many things, many secrets, and a lot of that I haven't released. It's going to be in the novel Questus. And people will be able to see them there, although I'm happy to discuss what I found anyway.
Yes, please do. I mean, you maybe give a really quick recap as to your relationship, because for people who didn't listen in or may have missed the show the first time, maybe just briefly bring us up to speed with your connection with Andrew, maybe, and how this research was left to you. And then, please move forward with we like secrets.
It's just among the three of us and a couple million. We're good.
Yeah, that's all.
We're good. Don't worry. We're good.
Yeah, well, that's it. It always makes life interesting. That's the thing. My father there was the Great Lakes sea officer. He always used to say, make life as interesting, travel as much as you can, and make life as interesting as possible. And I've tried to follow that as much as possible. But it was weird because my family originally my ancestors were from the north of Scotland. Williamson, it's a sept name of the clan Gunn. Right. And the Gunns were allied to the Sinclairs at various points in history. They were also enemies of the Sinclairs at some point as well, as was the way of warring northern Scottish clans that are predominantly Viking, like the Mackays, the Gunns, the Sinclairs, for instance. There's the three major ones, Sutherlands. They were all a Viking extract, and there's not just the sort of the Scots Gaelic, clans in that respect. There's also the Viking type clans. So the Gunns, which I was in, my family were in, were there up in the north of Scotland, and that's how I came onto the scene, really. And the Sinclairs at the time were forming a library, and it was called basically the Sinclair Study Centre. And my friend Ian Sinclair set that up, and I'd gone up there in about 1999, and there was a huge, it was Clan Games Festival, and that's where I met Andrew Sinclair for the first time, and I gave him a maquette, which is a small sculpture of Prince Henry Sinclair, and he gave me a copy of his book, The Sword and the Grail. So that's how. Then we went off to the huge drinks tent, and got stuck in, basically.
Yeah, I like it. Hey, more business gets done over drinks. Never mind.
And if you remember it, it was really good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how I met Andrew, and we decided to combine my knowledge as an operative stonemason and his great academic knowledge together. So, and first thing we did was went researching Knights Templar tombstones all over the south of Scotland and into northern England. And we wrote a book together. Unfortunately, Andrew died in 2019, but I'm sat on this book as well, which combines that information and along with the resonant properties of stone and vibrational frequency, which has been something that's been explored within Rosslyn Chapel.
Yes.
And perhaps there was another purpose for the chapel, as well as it being, which obviously the Sinclairs built, but almost a place where sacred music was played and where it was able to resonate in the auspices of Rosslyn Chapel itself inside, because it's a completely stone chapel. The roof is stone as well. And there's also other
exquisite.
Yeah. So that was, there's so much really that I have to screw the top of my head down to stop it all bursting forth.
Oh, I know. I mean, you have the whole inside view of every inch of the place. I was just happy to get into the main areas, that's open to the public, and just admiring it from outside. And I love architecture, and these old historic places are just mind-blowing. I believe that, you talk about frequencies, and I think we touched on this last time. I believe stone, it retains, it holds on to the energy, it holds on to events that happen, memory. It's you touch it and you can pick up so much from it. Like the old term, if the walls could speak, I believe that stone can.
Yeah, that's right, and that's a fantastic way of putting it, actually. But the BBC in the 1980s, I'm still trying to locate this, but I remember seeing it, somehow managed to do some kind of sonic experiment whereby they put electrodes into big pieces of stone, ashlar, which it's a building material inside a church. And they actually got a recording of thousands of voices, sort of all talking at the same time, which is interesting, isn't it?
It's super interesting. And when you talk about frequencies, I could see Rosslyn being a place where they would work with frequency. Frequencies, people don't realize, can heal the body from illnesses. It can heal the mind. It can affect everything about you. So a place as amazing as Rosslyn, with all of these intricate clues and codes and secrets, and why not? why not build it so it can just do all these other wondrous things?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And of course, Edgar Cayce was into healing frequencies of Egyptian harps, for instance. And I read quite a lot about his work as a result of the stone lyre that I created with Andrew, actually. And he got it strung by the medieval music department at Oxford. And this is, as far as I know, it's the only one of its kind in the world. and that's going to be debuted in Manchester, and you may get to talk to the people involved in that at some point. I'm going to connect you with them.
Oh, wow! Thank you. That would be outstanding.
You're the
Thank
best.
you.
Yeah.
Very excited. Just keeps like the gift. You're just like the gift that keeps on giving. So,
that's it.
It's like Christmas all year long.
I know.
In a great way. Without the annoying family.
Yeah.
So,
Buy one now. Buy one, get one free.
Yeah,
I like
we
it.
just love you. Don't worry. We'll buy anything you're selling.
Sure. That's interesting when you say, Rosalind built for frequencies, and it makes me wonder. You look at the apprentice pillar. Some believe it's a DNA strand. And right. And then you're adding your frequencies that can affect the body. It can affect the energy. It can alter you from the inside out, literally.
Yeah,
maybe?
well, absolutely. And of course, Crick and Watts, Andrew Sinclair mentions the pillar in context to them, the people who found, the DNA strand or spiral, which many people have said that the ropes around the apprentice pillar in Rosslyn are very similar. I mean, I did a study on the pillar itself, and it's a masterpiece of geometric geometry.
Not bad for an apprentice, huh?
Not bad for an apprentice. Yeah, I mean, I think that the apprentice pillar is there's obviously legend attached to it, but I think the basis is far more incredible than we know, and some of the mysteries of Rosslyn are starting to come to light. Especially with some of the carvings and stuff on the ornate ceiling and the symbolism. There's another really very American-based writer called Jeff Nisbet has produced some incredible work on the carved ceiling and how it sort of corresponds with astronomical alignments. And we get into deluge theory here and how the Earth is connected to some extent. I mentioned this in my book Questus, but the idea that the polar caps can shift and the whole trajectory of the planet can almost shift overnight. And they reckon this has happened before in the past, with some of the great floods.
Which segues into this, because like I said, like being there, I mean, there's just so much. But one thing I did notice was corn stalks.
Yeah.
And you're thinking that wasn't a Scottish thing. That is a North American thing, right? So how would William have known to include this in the construction unless somebody had, right? Okay, the stage is yours. So, segue.
Yeah.
She's singing. She's very happy you're here.
I know. My favorite topic. I can't help it.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Sinclairs were obviously the ones I knew. Many of them sort of passed away now because they're old guys when I knew them, and they were involved in connecting the Sinclairs to the or reconnecting the Sinclairs to the Abenaki, who mention the occurrence of these European travellers and how they worked together at certain points in history. And Prince Henry's voyage across to North America was dated at 1398. So this was probably the source of the discoverer of certain vegetables and foods native to or indigenous to North America, including aloe vera cactus. That is incredible. That's another carved feature in the chapel itself, and who can deny that? It's I don't think they were thinking when they made it up, this is really going to knock people sideways in 2021. It wasn't a preconception.
Thank you, Dan Brown. It's messed up a whole generation.
He was ahead of his time with his book.
Yeah. But it did put eyes on Rosslyn, to which I'm grateful for, in places like Rennes-le-Château and certain parts of southern France, and it started a movement, and I think Rosslyn was at the center of all of that.
Yeah, the people are coming around now to alternative versions of events rather than the established line, about history, and I'm kind of in that. I've got my foot in both camps, in as much as I'm bringing very strong evidential carved information about carvings but I'm looking at things really from an alternative viewpoint rather than the established rhetoric, and in actual fact there isn't that much. It's it's down to knowledge of types of tools. You can't. It's almost impossible to carbon date stone, for instance. Mm-hmm. And when they date something, they have kind of old boffins looking at carving techniques and styles, and a lot of that information is housed at the British Museum, and including a booklet that you can get from the museum on methods of forgery, and how to age stone prematurely, because there's quite a lot of forged, carved work out there. And one of my roles, to some extent, has been to attempt to date certain carvings based on the carving techniques, but also you get a feel for them as well. And I've done some work for an antiquities dealer, and he gave me a test of eight carvings, and I got six of them right, basically 6 out of 8. But some of them are so good that it's very, very, very difficult to tell. But you get a sense or a feeling for something that's forged, because, again, going back to what you said, Michelle, about the magnetic quality of stone, and it kind of picks up something from us. And if when people carve stone, you're putting their heart and soul into it to some extent. But if you're doing it for money on a fraudulent basis, it's bound to have if you kind of tuned in.
It's an energy thing.
Yeah.
It's an energy thing. So you look at a place like Rosslyn with all those stone carvers.
Oh my gosh!
Can you imagine? Like talk about frequency and resonance and energy imprinting, and like it's got to be. I mean, well, I've been there, so it's loaded.
The stones, and where the stones come from make a big difference as well, right? So
where the stones come from,
yeah.
No, where they're bringing it from, the energy from there, and then the energy of the carver and anyone who touches it.
Well, think about all the people just in the last 15 years who've been through those doors,
putting their energy and their prayers and their thoughts on anything that they're touching,
in hopes of finding the Holy Grail under the floor. It's like the movie. It's like,
dig a little bit.
I'm just looking for Templars. I'm like, where are they buried? But okay, so we'll keep going from the aloe and the corn husks and North America. We can go down like that way. But then you pull us where you feel the story needs to go, because we're along for the ride, your journey here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a journey that we're all on together in that respect. And when, so the Sinclairs went over to Nova Scotia in 2001, I think it was, or 2000. And I'd kind of just come across from Clangun. I was on the boat by then. And, they were in North America working with the Abenaki. And they created a sword of peace that was presented, I think, to them. So, time moves on quickly, and this is the nature of the world we live in. Mm-hmm. But there were some great connections forged with the Abenaki, and some of the symbolism on their dress. Sorry, not the Abenaki, the Mi'kmaq. I've got that wrong. Yeah. I worked with the Abenaki in 2005, and that was curious in itself, because it was just a byproduct, really, of something else. And then, of course, Wayne Murphy and Gretchen Cornwall of Team Templar, they were in touch with me recently, and I was able to rekindle the whole European exploration of North America with them, but from Wisconsin, and the great discoveries that they've made on that native on the native homelands to that extent. It was absolutely fascinating. So even though the Clan Sinclair Study Centre now is defunct, gone, I'm able to still carry the knowledge that we gained, and use that obviously with Wayne and Gretchen, and of course Hamilton and Carl Cookson, with the the probability of the work in North America later, and all to do with the what happened to the refugee Templars, because many had said that I believe that there was a faction in the Sinclairs that carried on the Templars after the sort of main bulk of the Templars became dissolved. Yes. We know the history and stuff. Yeah. And I was able to reverse engineer that by checking the symbolism on Knight Templar tombstones, of which I found two types. The ring cross type tombstone, which is proven now, and we basically, myself and Andrew, proved that. And that's another report that I've got out called Evidence of Knight Templar Tombstones, which is finished, and I'm sat on it. I'm going to release that at the same time as Questus, my novel, and the secondary tombstone, which is the wheel cross tombstone, which many people have thought was, St. Catherine, which comes after the ring cross type tombstones, and then also this wheel cross itself is very similar to a navigational type steering wheel, which has got something I think to do with the exploration of the Templars and their great base or sea power. It's quite complex, and I don't know why I'm doing this stuff and not in pool halls and taverns, But
it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's like being pulled in a million different directions. So I mean, I think we know that Templars went to Portugal. We know a bunch went to Scotland, and of course, I mean, we know that Sinclairs, they're a big Templar family, at least a certain faction of them. and most of us know they did come to North America because there's pieces of it everywhere. Oak Island for us, Rhode Island, the windmill. There's evidence of it everywhere. So can you elaborate more, like, on the journey coming here? Do you think obviously some remained behind, or did they go back and return? Like, what, because there's traces of them. Obviously, Wayne Murphy found somebody. Right?
Yeah, well, the symbols, carved symbols that are on the great discovery that Wayne and Gretchen have made it's there, and that's going to come to light over time, and it's going to be great being a part of that. But one of the roles of the Sinclairs in the past, going back to the Sinclairs, was that they were actually guardians of sacred treasures and relics. That was like an official title, medieval title that they had. So with that in mind, what could they be guarding? Was it religious artifacts?
That's what all millions and two of us want to know. Do you have the inside scoop on that? Yeah.
Come on.
Well, there's no smoke without fire. That's the way I look at this, and I think they were protecting what they managed to escape with from France, La Rochelle, through that route.
Yes. Do we know what that is?
Well,
it's no like pressure. Really, it's 2:30 in the morning for me, Michelle, and you're.
I know. Sorry, I'm trying to take it easy on you, but I know you know stuff.
But,
of course he does. That's why he's here.
The old. I'm going to the wardrobe now to look for the fedora hat and the whip. You know what I mean? But I think there were several different sort of things that they were, protecting, including obviously the Ark of the Covenant,
right? The
Holy Ark of the Covenant, and that, and they were there in the Temple of Solomon. They excavated it. They found artifacts with medieval knight spurs and all sorts down there. And I think there's more that they're not telling us about as well,
Yeah, well, scrolls, knowledge, right?
Yeah. The teachings of John the Baptist and knowledge as well as things or artifacts. Yes. And I think they would, they were running from the Roman Catholic Church, and they would have to find a place where they could be safe to create their New Jerusalem, I think. And I think one of the areas that they'd got navigational maps to, and probably via the Viking line, because the Vikings got everywhere. I think that's what they were bringing to North America, or maybe they were splitting their main treasures up and dispersing it over the world, because what they had was of great, enormous power, and of course people would be chasing them. I was in South America, in Chile, for 6 months on investigating various leads. It was a great, absolutely fascinating journey to find out that, they too have got their own Templar legends and artifacts and information that it's a line of, and of course, Kathleen Ball has been working, filming right now with, the Brazil thing.
That's right.
So what was going on in South America? It's one of the theories. I have to jumping around a bit here, but
That's okay.
Sinclair Castles.
Yes.
It's platted into the rocks in northern Scotland. It's a fabulous edifice, and the building skills that they had to create this place out of the natural rock, is just enormous. But many people had said that at one point in time, these areas were heavily wooded, and that the wood was being used to create ships for the New World. And I'm talking about 1480, 1490. And that this guy, structural engineer actually, Mike Rochaw, and he said that the place had been used to create ships that were actually flat packed, almost like IKEA, and it was like the medieval Cape Canaveral, and shipped out to America, because the power was based in shipping later, sea power, and that was an interesting dimension on the archaeological discoveries that they found there, and it was alternative, but I somehow thought that had got the ring of truth in it, and the interesting thing about, because then I started researching piracy, history of piracy on the high seas, and I came across quite an obscure book which said that the Earl of Caithness, 1700, entertained pirates and corsairs at Sinclair Castle. So I thought, again, no smoke without fire. Was there more than a passing connection between the genesis of pirates and the Sinclairs? Was there a combination of, did the Templars, because when they left La Rochelle, apparently they left La Rochelle with skull and crossbones on the flag. And I think there was more going on in North America and South America than we'll ever know. But we are starting to get some of this information about this cross, seafaring Sinclairs and the like, and the Templars. And, in a way, standard history is denying us that to some extent, I believe.
I've read about the connection with Templars and pirates. I think there's the misconception where the Templars became pirates, not so much that they worked with them or they were connected together. It's just there's a lot of stuff. It jumps around a little bit. Even in the stuff that I've read, I was sort of like, well, that's interesting because it goes back to finances and banking and that whole thing, right? So, but I don't know. It makes sense to me because you look at a lot of the secret societies and skull and crossbones and things like that, and so much of it stems back to Freemasonry and Templars and maybe there's a little bit of everything. I look at Oddfellows only because I've been just immersed in it in the last while, but a lot of it is reenacting different things that happened in the Temple of Solomon. Everything. Like I was fascinated when they were telling me that. I'm like, there's a connection somewhere between many of these groups, to the apex being, the Templars, right?
Yeah, well, I've visited Rhodes and the castles of the Knights of St. John. There, vast amounts of skull and crossbones there as well, on tombstones.
Really?
Oh, wow.
There we go.
So, again, I think that although there was a battle actually between the Hospitallers and the Templars at one point in time,
Wow.
in the Middle East, which was kind of a curved ball in that respect. I do think the Hospitallers actually helped the Templars somehow, and there was a combination of regrouping going on as the Templars, became dissolved, and all the things that happened to them. I think, they saved. I think they saved the treasure. Who knows where it went? But there's some theory about it actually being down in Arizona, with the stones that they've discovered there as well, that look symbolically like the depiction of the Temple of Solomon from the Secret Scroll, the Masonic teaching document in the Orkneys. Very similar. So it's pulling all these threads together and trying to weave something that's got the truth in it.
Yeah, but I mean, you have people coming to the New World, so to speak. I think eventually they're going to blend in. They're going to intermarry, right? If they're not going back and they're going to stay here, they're going to intermarry. They're going to, marry with me into indigenous communities, and just blend in, disappear, especially if you're being chased.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the Templars' integrity and gnosis or knowledge of world and spirituality would make them very good at being able to do that. Because there would be Templar Masons. They had their own contingent of stonemasons based on craft guilds of France. Children of Solomon, actually, they were called, the Templar Mason groups. And the founder of the Templars, Bernard of Clairvaux, one of his Cistercian brothers, a guy called Archard, was responsible for training stonemasons in Europe. So the Templars were actually the foremost trainers of cathedral builders in Europe. Huge legacy to continue forward with.
And what better way to hide a treasure by blending in and disappearing? I mean, I don't know. And you have Gretchen and Wayne just come and throw a wrench into it. Maybe you guys are all going to find something like that's not expected. But I'm sure this is everywhere. It ranges anywhere from North America to Chile to Brazil to, Kathleen's finding goes back to the 1200s, she figures. So they've been here. This is not something new for them. They knew exactly where they were going, I think.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they had the maps of the known world at the time, and that brings me to Piri-Reis, the Admiral Piri-Reis, and his map that he was in possession of, which was apparently a composite of other maps, but actually proven to be very, very similar to, because it depicts Antarctica before there was ice. So,
wow.
And it's been verified as being very, very, very close to what they know of the landmass under Antarctica now. And Charles Hapgood was an American map maker and geophysicist, I think, for want of a better word. He was the the man for that. And his book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, is just unbelievable, phenomenal. You know, the information in that, and well worth people, anybody that's interested, try and get that book, because it's kind of, the price of it now is going up and up and up. And it's, the weird thing is, any of these books that have the greatest of knowledge and alternative knowledge seem to be being priced out of the roof, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So get that book if you can. And I think it still is available, but it's like something like $90 or something.
Ooh, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like that. I purchased a book from England, actually, from a professor who taught a class based on my great grandfather and how he sculpted. That book cost me £400. That's like 600 Canadian.
At least.
But I had to get it because it's the only textbook and reference book. He did all the research for me. So for me, it was a gift to be able to buy it and not have to do that work. And then he photographed everything he's ever done. So it for me, it was exciting, you know, being a descendant. You want that kind of thing to fall into your lap. It saves you a lot of work.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the Sinclairs then were basically instrumental in coming to North America.
Yeah, I think they had. I think it's a safe bet to say that they were there at some point, and certainly all the research that was done at Sinclair Study Centre goes in that direction. You know, through Prince Henry Sinclair and his voyage to North America and his connection with the Micmacs, and also, you know, it's represented in their symbolism as well, their native symbolism. So there's that, but where, and also I've seen another paper. This is interesting. I was going to mention that university paper where it actually mentions all the medieval artifacts that they found at other sites as well. So that's worth considering. I'll have to try and dig that out. It's from, I think it's about in the early 70s or something, but from an American university that, you know, there's pictures of carvings, pictures of artifacts, pictures of medieval objects that they discovered, and you know, that stuff must be somewhere, eh?
Yeah, one would think. That's interesting. That would be definitely a curiosity if you come across that information. So I'm guessing, obviously, Henry Sinclair went home. He did not remain behind. Others did remain behind, or did others just follow after him? Was this become a regular thing?
Well, I think, you know, my ancestor, Sir James Gunn, obviously didn't return, and you know, the Westford Knight, which we talked about previously as well. But I think Prince Henry Sinclair did return back to the Orkneys, and they say that Prince Henry died in, there's no conclusive proof of this, though, that he died in some battle against the English. But we don't know for certain what happened to Prince Henry.
Really? I did not know
that.
But
if, as per the tombstone of Sir William Sinclair in Rosslyn with the Wheelcross tombstone, which I think was dated about 1325, if he was indeed part of a continuation of the Templar Order with this type or form of wheel cross, or like ship steering wheel cross on it, then they would be candidates for a continuation of the order to protect what the original Templars had found in the Temple of Solomon, which they were pledged to look after, and would account for the Sinclairs being named, guardians of holy relics, as well.
Yeah, that's a big one. And of course, the family, obviously continues on with that. So he didn't build Rosslyn, obviously, right? His grandson built Rosslyn. Would I be correct in saying that? Or it wasn't his son? It was William.
Yeah, it was William. William Sinclair was the architect. Much further, I think it was his grandson, or his great grandson.
So what goes on in his head to be the architect of something like this? Like, people spend their entire lives trying to break the codes in this place. Like, how do you orchestrate something like that? Seriously.
Well, I mean, it was, the knowledge. They don't know exactly where the masons and carvers were from,
right?
But there was, you've got to understand this is really where I'm kind of at my strongest, knowing, for instance, how one of these buildings was set out and created, and the denominations of various craftsmen that were involved in the process. And you have two types of people that work, say, in a cathedral. You have the stonemasons, which are responsible for architectural and geometric work that has a structural integrity as well. So they make, the stones with molding work on it that actually, almost like an interlocking jigsaw, give the building structural integrity. They were the dominant force on a cathedral work floor. But second to that were the carvers, and a carver couldn't become a stonemason, for instance. He was involved in the embellishment of what the stonemasons wanted them to embellish. They were a different class they were seen as second to the stonemasons. And that probably, if you were artistic or you had an ability to work in stone, then if you couldn't because the only way that you could transfer knowledge as a stonemason was from father to son in those times, or father to daughter, because we know that there were women stonemasons as well. We've got vast amounts of evidence to know that as well. And you've got people like quarrymen. You have joiners, people who worked in wood. It was a whole industry. In Rosslyn took apparently 30 years to build, and
13 or 30. Sorry,
30.
30. Yeah, I believe that.
So there was a village created. In Rosslyn village itself was where they housed all the masons, and they were very well paid, as were the carvers as well. And so somebody like William Sinclair would have, I think he had knowledge of sacred geometry.
Yes.
Which would have come from Templar sources, and maybe even further back than that. But I believe there was a link between the Temple of Solomon, the masons that built that, and I think there was a genetic lineage to those masons that built Rosslyn. And I think that the Templars were well aware of that when that lineage, when they were involved in excavating the Temple of Solomon.
Yeah, it's literally perfect, isn't it? When you're looking at just angles and measurements and things as such, sacred geometry, and they were just very good with angles. I mean, even today, Freemasons, there's a place in Toronto called Casa Loma, which you're probably familiar with. And the architect was a Mason, and he built many places throughout Toronto, and they are literally perfect. And this was built like pre-World War I. and they just come in, string everything up. They didn't have all these, like tools and technology and lasers and things like that. But yet, there's one room in specific that it doesn't matter how you measure it, it is perfect.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's that knowledge, right?
That's it. I mean, they were working a block of stone square before. First of all, the hardest part of a mason's job is squaring up a rough ashlar, and that's obviously an operative tradition, but it's part of the. It's also revered by the speculative tradition of Freemasonry in that respect, but it's when you go to college to learn all this, which of course I did. The first thing you do is you're given basically a lump of stone, and you have to make a perfectly square piece of stone from it. And there's a technique, quite complex technique of you basically do what they call bone the surface in. So you have to make sure that it's true, and you flatten one side basically, and then square off that. And it's really complex. And once you can do that, and you've picked up the tool skills, that might take 3 weeks to do that. But once you've picked the tool skills up then you go on to develop that piece of stone that you've carved square and true. You will then apply templates to it and make a certain type of geometric design from in that stone and carve that, you see. And that's how it develops until, you become a master mason in that respect, yeah.
And Rosslyn, of course, is this perfect in every sense with all of this mystery and secrets. So, okay, what'd you find at Rosslyn? I'm just going to go for it. No.
How far did you dig? And where is it now?
Just kidding. I'm kidding. At your base.
Well, I'm going to show you something of what was found by Andrew Sinclair at Rosslyn, which I've got now, and it's actually on. I think it might be being shown on Lost Relics, which the series I was on with Carl and Hamilton, and it may well be on that as well. But oddly enough, whilst Andrew was filming at Rosslyn, excavating, and he's actually on film doing this. I'll try and get a clip to you, but he goes down basically to outside the vaulted area, which of course is the area that everybody was trying to get to. And this at the time, Rosslyn wasn't Da Vinci Code famous, and somehow they got permission to go in and start digging and stuff. And he found a wooden bowl, basically, which he said this could be an ordinary stonemason's drinking vessel, but it's one of the only things to have come out of the vaults. Do you want to see it?
I love to see it. We all want to see it. Everybody show hands.
Yes.
Everybody out there.
My glasses on for that. I'm losing my voice, so. So if you're listening and you're not,
I need to get it carbon dated, but at least I definitely know that it's medieval because I've had it looked at. But this is one of the things Andrew gave me before he died, actually.
Oh, how wonderful! Wow.
Oh,
wow, that's exquisite.
Can you see it?
Yeah, that's a beautiful piece.
On the inside, Shawn, is there something that is carved? Oh boy.
That's it, and it's had incense or something in it at some point, like almost like there's wax in it as well. And he's had this since 1995, I think it was.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful thing.
It's exquisite.
I believe it to be much older, you know. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, it's exquisite.
Yes,
it is
beautiful.
Exquisite. And this is the only piece to come out of the vault, or he was in front of the vault. Has it ever been completely excavated? Because if there's there's got to be more.
Well,
Someone's trying to guarantee yourself a crit.
It's my job, man. I'm supposed to ask questions. Hard questions.
I don't see anybody getting that chance to get down there, and apparently it's full of the main vaults themselves are full of sand. And
how bizarre!
Yeah, and there is an extract. I'll see if I can find it to read you the.
I figured the family, even for just their own curiosity, would want to dig. You know?
Listen to this.
Okay.
So this is from the book that I was writing with Andrew, and I've got that as well. But this is through some of his research. So it starts off, a description of the vaults in 1693 declared that they were built of polished ashlar. So that's ashlar stone that's been worked to a very high extent. So it's the sort of thing that you use mausoleum halls and probably where there's going to be bodies and stuff like that stored, or almost burial reverence to that extent. Divided into compartments and arched from east to west with a supporting wall down the middle. That's a description of the vaults. The 20 St. Clair Knights buried in full armour down there were later celebrated by Sir Walter Scott, and a previous witness declared the dead men lay in a vault so dry that their bones have been found entire after 80 years, as fresh as when they were buried. So basically these knights that were down there didn't rot, basically. Father Hay backed this account. He was very famous in all this as the man that saved vast amounts of knowledge from a fire that consumed Roslin Castle, or part of it. So Father Hay backed this account. Sir William St. Clair was the last male knight to be consigned below, on the same day as the Scottish defeat at the Battle of Dunbar. His corpse seemed entire at an opening of the cave, but when they came to touch his body, it fell into dust. He was lying in his armour with a red velvet cap on his head on a flat stone. Nothing was spoiled except a piece of white furring that went round the cap and answered to the hinder part of the head, which is a great way of saying basically went round the back of his head, this fur cap that he had on, which was part of his death funerary rites to some extent. Hay later saw his St. Clair stepfather interred in a coffin beneath Roslin Chapel. The window was reproached by King James VII and II of England for not burying him in full armour, but she thought that such an old custom was beggarly. So that gives you an idea of what other people had found down there, but not actually getting chance to excavate all of it. I believe that that's just a section that the Father Hay was talking about where they discovered the knights. But
that's substantial. 20 knights. Wow, that's big.
Yeah, so they were kind of laying out on slabs basically, and just probably walled up in the vaults, you know. And but it mentions the entrance to a cave, because that brings me to something else I'd learned, and I have to find the source of this actually, that states there was a huge cave down at Roslin, and that, you know, the chapel was in fact built over this cave, which was a former Augustinian abbey. Now I'll have to verify that, but you know, when they say when we hear about the saying "as above, so below," it means that the height of Roslin is just as great underground as it is above. Yes. So that gives you an idea of what could be down there.
Wow. And is there access or no?
I don't think. I think that
I don't want to put you on the spot.
It would certainly not be my place to do any of that stuff. I can only examine. I can, you know, but I do have this. I do have the small Grail bowl as well, which I'm going to get carbon dated. Yes. So wouldn't it be great if it turned out to be a lot older than medieval?
Yeah, and you believe it is. What makes you believe that it is? What is it about the bowl that leads you to think it's older than the medieval?
I don't know. I think it's been reused for other purposes. Mm-hmm. But I think originally, why he found it, I don't know. It's just very strange that. And then before he died, Andrew passed that to me. Mm-hmm. Literally, the last time I saw him, that's what he gave me. Before he died, he was, you know, he was 85, 85, yes. And you know, he'd succumbed to some ill health and stuff. But he was a very prodigious writer, and you know, much maligned as well. He had a lot of people. Mm-hmm. That didn't like what he was writing, you know.
Well, you're dealing, you know, let's face it, I think where most people are raised within their religions to believe certain stipulation. This is the way it is. This is how it goes. You don't veer away from that. It's like history. You don't veer away from it. So when you're coming in with other ideas or research, it's really difficult. You know, I think we were talking with Hamilton and Carl about this probably the first show. And I've done this with like through the years, multiple people, but we've encountered many people who've had these phenomenal discoveries, Kathleen being one, and saying, have you gotten some resistance, you know, from the archaeological community? Yes, because we're not archaeologists. So it's like your jobs are much tougher. Because it does stray away. You know, when history tells you Christopher Columbus in 1492 discovered South America, and you come in and find a cave that's 200 years prior to that, I don't think they're going to like that too much. You're going to get some resistance.
Yeah, it costs a little money to retype history books.
Right?
That's a good way of putting it, actually, yeah.
It all comes down to money.
It's true.
They don't care what's right or wrong. Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got this amazing piece that you're going to, you know, have. I mean, carbon dating. See, that's a great thing about technology. It doesn't lie.
Well, yeah. I mean, and Andrew had many of his discoveries carbon dated as well. And, you know, his book, The Secret Scroll, is a really good read if anybody gets a chance to see that, you know.
Absolutely.
Where he gets a portion of the Secret Scroll carbon dated. But I guess to some extent, you know, my areas are really sort of from the ground up, you know, from stone, from building technology, ancient building technology, which I'm going more into now. That is casting my view on how some of the ancient civilizations built in stone and how they were able to work it to such an extent. And I do believe it's the product of a not lost technology, but a lost way of working. You know, we tend to think of ourselves in now modern day times as, you know, the best of the best because we can build high-rise tower blocks or whatever.
But it doesn't last more than 100 years.
No, there's these civilizations somehow built structures greater than we could achieve. How? What went wrong? What was it? Did they operate in a way which was against this industrial way that we've been formulated or structured? We're in a very structured the way we work in the West, and why were they able to build these cities, vast amounts of cities? I'm sure it wasn't like that old chestnut. Oh, it must have been they had thousands and thousands of slaves. I don't believe that at all. I just believe that they were more tuned in, more cohesive, and
frequencies.
Yeah, they love what they did. They must have done.
Yes. Well, I mean, things last. You're going in, and there are structures that allegedly are starting to surface that are 12,000 years old, 10,000 years old. You walk through all of Europe. You can lay your hands on a building. That's. I mean, you yourself. How many buildings you stayed in that go back to the 1200s, 1100s? I've stayed in a few.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're still standing. You're lucky if you find something that's a couple hundred years old here, and it's usually on a slant.
We haven't even been there that long, though. I mean, it's only just over.
No, for sure. But even still, on an average, you're lucky to find a building that old.
Well, that's because
they just don't last that long.
Save any of them, but they
just go up too quick.
The heritage communities took them down.
It's about, well, in some cases, like this house is almost 200 years old, and it's had a boatload of issues of, you're just trying to tackle every problem as it happens, but that's the way it goes. You need to do a station ID, right? I know you're
yes,
just looking
I
at
do.
me. You're looking at me, and I'm just like, all right, I know it's time.
No, I looked at the time and I realized it, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Thank you.
Right now, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano, our amazing welcome back guest tonight, which we just love and adore him, and some secrets too. This is the great Shawn Williamson. Tonight's broadcast is fully sponsored by the good people at Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Folgers. If you're listening to us on FM radio, you're on 105.3 in New Orleans. And we are United Public Radio, Gods and Extraterrestrials, International Radio, and International Public Radio. I never get the last one.
Public Radio.
But thank you for joining us tonight. Yes.
I know.
Excellent. Wow. Yeah,
we're growing. And growing and growing.
Yes, yes. I just can't remember all.
But I know it's very late for you. No, you just have to scroll up and read it. He flashes it every now and then. It's the only way I can remember it. Sorry.
Yeah. So all good. And I was in New Orleans at one point in time as well.
Wow.
Oddly enough, on the Cape Breton Minor, which was, goes into the heritage really of Nova Scotia, and all the Scots that came over from obviously from Scotland to Cape Breton Isles. They reckon at one point in time there was more Gaelic culture there than in Scotland, after the Highland clearances and stuff.
Here. Yeah. There's a lot of
so the Scots were intrepid travelers, and probably because of their Viking connections and stuff, they traveled all over the world, and and as far down into Chile where there were sheep farmers, and gives you an idea that it's not such a vast leap to think of medieval sailors coming over to North America. And I think there was a lot more than Prince Henry Sinclair. I think that was a prominent voyage that was, that got some spotlight, but I think there was others as well. And I think they had the ancient maps. They They knew of the travel routes of the Phoenicians. It's all interlinked, but we're finding these things out now as we go along, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. Like now, of course, they're just coming. Well, they're allowing it to surface. I think they've known all along, but Vikings have actually made it down to South America. We know they've been in North America, but now that there's talk that they've been to South America as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, the Viking Varangian Guard, I mean, the Byzantine emperors employed the Varangian Guard type mercenaries. They were, all over the Middle East, and prior to 1200, they got everywhere. They were into Russia, up the River Volga as well, which is apparently the basis of some of the basis of the Viking genetic pool, say, of Russia. And they had back in Norway and Denmark, their soil was it was hard for them to make a living, I think, as farmers. So
yes.
Quite often boatloads of young Vikings would head off for pastures green to try and survive. And that was not just, to the UK. I believe it was all over the world. Yeah.
It's quite a hike to South America from that neck of the woods.
That's it.
A journey. Yeah.
And when you get down to places like Chile, it was remarkably like the climate was, especially Chiloé, which is an island area where lots of small islands, lots of sea culture, and the climate is very similar to Scotland. It rains continuously. I thought, why have I come here? I could have just gone to Scotland.
There we go.
just the same, yeah. And so I think people tend to think of South America as steamy, hot jungles and things like that. Well, of course, it's as you're getting into southern Chile, it's not. It's remarkably similar to Scotland, the landscape and the climate.
Yeah, we get our produce.
I believe that.
Exported, imported into Canada from there
well
because
on
they have
route
the
to
opposite.
Antarctica.
Yeah, they're opposite us in season, so they supply us with fresh produce during the winter season. I have a question from the chat room. If you'd like to take one, Shawn.
Sure, yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Shawn. Mary Glenn asks, has Shawn had any involvement with Oak Island?
No, I follow Oak Island, and I did some. I've got some various research about what's been going on there, and I'm of course fascinated by it and what they're looking for, and how that could also be part of the same. A lot of people have denied that the area, the island itself, is had any connections to Templars. Well, that may be so, but there's something there. There's something there, but it's a hard task to find whatever it is they're looking for. But
there's a lot there, but when did it get there? How long were they there? Those are the questions they can't answer.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of Templar markings on that island. Yeah. Like, what are they new? We, the viewers, could see that. I'm sure they know. They got it. They got to pull it along a little bit. but I think a lot of people would have, come to the island. Let's face it. Throughout that part of the country, Like it's that stepping stone, right? That comes in down through the St. Lawrence Seaway and brings you into the core. You gotta swing by it. But I'm curious as to your thought on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to your thought on it.
I don't know where I heard this or whether it was correct, but when we were doing some excavation at a Cistercian abbey in northern England, they found, after several hundred years, an area of wall collapsed, and under it they found that they used for the foundation, and I couldn't believe this, was sheep fleece. So it had been built off layers and layers of sheep fleece, wool, basically. And apparently this is makes a fabulous, they could walk across marshes on this stuff because of it's got certain qualities that that were used in medieval building. And I heard that they found quite a lot of it at one of the entrances to one of the tributaries that of a river that was close by to the pit itself. That'd be interesting to get that verified on.
That's actually really fascinating. That definitely sheds some light on some medieval structure building.
Yeah, and how they consolidated areas, for what they were doing, because it's a massive undertaking. I mean, how many men were involved in digging it, and what kind of a brain would be able to devise a system that, although they could see what's there, there's photographs of some of the things that they can see, they couldn't, every time they got so far down, it filled up with water. And I think President Roosevelt was involved in.
He was
trying to
figure it out.
Figure it out.
But that's a loaded question that you're asking. What kind of a mind would build something like this? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the same kind of a mind that would build Boston Chapel with all of its weird, structure. I mean, like I said, you could spend a lifetime in there trying to figure this place out. And it's like sacred geometry. It's like master building. I think it's not just anybody could go and engineer something like this. I'm sorry. The Templars were known builders.
Absolutely, and I agree entirely that.
Thank you, Shawn.
The building techniques and the people that were involved in this stuff were just,
unique.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So, why would you go? Okay, let's just be hypothetical for a moment, because I don't want to, I don't want to stray from the show. I think they're doing a fantastic job. I love that they're just going layer by layer and they're looking at all of the possibilities. I think it's exciting. I love archaeology. I love the fact that things can be preserved. But let's just hypothetically say the master builders who were Templars, Masons, this is a European thing. These guys had it together. They knew what they were doing. Look at all these cathedrals that have gone up throughout Europe. Master engineering, in my opinion, for what it's worth. But why would you build such a complex pit? So complex. What would you build something like that for? You would want to make sure that nobody ever got access to what you wanted to put in it. Just being devil's advocate, that's all. Throwing it out there for what it's worth.
Unless that they had knowledge of being able to retrieve what it was they'd left in some equally divisive way, and surely they wouldn't make it inaccessible thinking ahead. You've got to put yourself in their position.
Mm-hmm.
And, what would they be thinking about people in the future? Would they be thinking how materialistic and how gone wrong people were to want to find treasure for treasures for the sake of treasure? Or are we trying to show that we are their equals by being able to find? It's like a puzzle between the builders and the retrievers, the builders versus the retrievers. It's a cultural dimensional thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, to me, I'm sure not just to me, I'm sure to many, it's definitely, it was built to make sure that they were the only ones to have access to it. Even in the future, they know the other way in. Damn it, that's what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
But everybody else doesn't. So they're going for the obvious, whereas they have to come into the back door, sort of thing, and nobody knows where that is.
Yeah, that's it. There must be a key to be able to access it somehow. Or a way of damming off the effects of the water filling up the area itself. But I was always fascinated by the Oak Island stuff from Holy Grail across the Atlantic. The Canadian writer Bradbury.
Ray Bradbury.
Yeah. That was really one of the first books I read on the whole thing. Apart from having a kind of a feeling I'd been here before. Like deja vu type feeling when I was over on the lakes and stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah, but the Oak Island thing. I mean, isn't it great that we've got people? Checking this stuff out and
layer by layer.
Yeah, it makes life interesting, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because you're talking about a connection between Templars and pirates, and they're finding, this alleged pirate treasure that maybe is much older and much, more. Maybe not. The treasure isn't always money.
No.
The treasure, you look at the Templars themselves. Wealthy men don't give up their wealth to go treasure hunting.
Well, that kind of moves the Lagina brothers right out of there, though.
Yeah, right. I know.
He kind of just zeroed them out.
Yeah, but Templars, they gave up their wealth. In some cases, titles. For knowledge. You don't go give up wealth for physical wealth. You go for something that's much greater. A purpose, knowledge, a spiritual journey, a quest, call me crazy, but
No, I think that's a really good way of putting it, because they gave away, their legacy, their money to join the order. When they joined the order, that became the order's possession, and used for the greater good. And as we know, the Templars were immensely wealthy. But if you get rid of that burden of the materialist thing, the cash or whatever they had, and they're not thinking about that all the time, then as an order, they were looked after. They were regimented. Of course, they were going to do much more than what we perceive. Like they were just warriors. They were more than that. They were geophysicists. They were all over.
Well, there are many educated men in there.
Absolutely, and biblical scholars. So it makes sense to me that being freed from the burden of wealth, they were able to make, turn their attentions to discovering esoteric knowledge or other things about the earth.
No, I agree. And you get back to building for a minute. I'm sorry, can we just talk about that tunnel at Acre? Like that tunnel, there are tunnels like that being found everywhere that the Templars were very present in, and they are engineering feats of glorious architecture is all I could say, because I think I go a little bit stupid when it comes to Gothic arches. You'll have to forgive me. And they just build them everywhere. So, but I mean, how do you know something like that isn't at Oak Island? They build them everywhere.
Well, they had specific mining knowledge and building constructional information beyond average. They must have done to create what they created, but they also had schools of building technique, and all this information was passed down. They had their own masons, and they had their own builders, and they had their own engineers. It was a huge network of skilled people that they were using seemingly all over the world,
Well, Dr. Kathleen Ann Ball is a perfect example when she found this cave that they had been, I guess, mining to a degree, because there's crystal quartz, there's quartz everywhere, and you go in there and you just see it's being worked on. It just goes to show you, it's just the knowledge, just, when you're looking at things like Oak Island, you really need to dig and see that they had the means, and they were doing this, like you say, everywhere. And I have a feeling they're going to find a lot more. I think the world is ready for it. We're not so quick to just listen to academia the way it is. We know there's more to it, and we're open to it. We're receptive to it now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very one-dimensional, the approach that they have, and I think they're probably, now that there's other forms and ways of research taking place, I think it's going to open up, definitely. And the Gorton Monastery in Manchester, of course, which I'm connected to also, I'm their sculptor. Nice. They've just, Jill, one of the ladies that's involved in working at the monastery, and Elaine Griffiths, they've created a superb library, Grail Study Centre. So, maybe the Sinclair Study Centre situation is not dead yet, and it's going to rise again at the Franciscan Monastery of Gorton. So, watch this space, so to speak.
You think the world will be better prepared to hear what they have to say now?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a snake shedding its skin. We're getting rid of the old prejudices, and people are more receptive to other ways to gain knowledge and other methods. I always call my working techniques oblique lateral, in as much as I'm kind of a lateral thinker. I'm looking at multiple. I do quite a lot of reverse engineering as well. But case in point proven, when we discovered Andrew was writing about tombstones, I came on board. We discovered a form called ring cross tombstones, but we didn't have any. They always used to say, well, yeah, but where's your evidence? They could be the tombs of Knights Hospitallers. And until that we found a friend of mine, Master Mason Shug Douglas from Edinburgh, there's a good name, he was digging, building a wall at the Templar headquarters at Ballantradock and discovered 3 of these ring cross tombstones under the wall, you know. So they were there, you know, the ring cross tombstones at the temple headquarters. It's case in point, really.
It's fantastic.
Proven, isn't it?
Wow.
So that's all in my document, evidence of Knights Templar tombstones, yeah.
Oh, I'm anxious for that to come out. I'm waiting very patiently for your books, just so you know. So, your fictional one especially.
Oh, that one's the one to start with.
Yeah, but I love tombstones to start with. Also, I have rubbings of everything. I love it. So
there's one scene in Questus where this'll, you know, I think this will interest you, where the guy, the hero, well, he's kind of an anti-hero in that, to some extent. He's in Rosslyn. He's called Angus MacWilliam, and he's sat in the pews. He's taking the guy that he's working with has gone off to get some chisels sharpened, and he's sat there in the pews looking at the altar, and suddenly he hears like 50 people all breathing behind him, but in unison, you know. And he turns round to see 50 Templars all behind him, and it blows his mind. He doesn't know where they've come from, whether it's a vision, whether he's going nuts, and it all kind of starts from that. But you can see that spiritual dynamic, visionary spiritual dynamic coming out there, you know.
No, I love it. Like, it would happen there.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing place. So as we near the end of the show, please, this is the part where you promote yourself. How can people find you? The release of your books? Do you have a website? Anything like that? Social media?
Yeah, my work can be seen if you Google Shawn Williamson Sculptor. I'm on, you know, there's a lot of information out there on my work as a stone sculptor. Or SM Williamson Stonemasons. But there'll be a separate site for Questus, the book, the novel. And that will be available probably privately. But I may do it through an ebook, or it may be I'll send hard copies out to people that are interested to start the whole thing off.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So
thank you. So, all right. Well, I know it's late over there, and I thank you so much for joining us. I know you're coming back on next month with Dr. Kathleen Ann Ball at the end of the month. And I know that we sort of go step by step. You're on August 26th, for those who are curious. Yes, it's going to be a joint show with the two of you. So you guys can confirm, because I know she's off filming and you're off like all over the place all the time. Never know where you're going to be. So we're going to have to connect up before that happens to make sure everything is a go. But thank you for joining us tonight. And I look forward to, you know, hearing all about what we're going to talk about next, because you're just a wealth of information. My favorite topics.
Thank you for staying awake for us.
Yes, I know it must be hard.
No, it's always a pleasure, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Getting so it's really growing interdimensional stuff that you're doing, and good on you. You know.
Thank you. I'd like to provide a platform, especially for work such as yours.
That's good, and more secrets and discoveries to come, no doubt. And
I cannot
enlightenment.
We're holding you to it.
You know we're going to hold you to it. I'm going to harass you otherwise. But thank you, and
thank you
safe
everything.
travels and all the best. And please keep in touch.
Will do. Yeah. Okay, guys. Bye,
Happy
everybody.
slumber.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Shawn.
Time for bed.
That's right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.
Well, we have come to another end of a fantastic segment here in the Outer Realm. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, to everybody in chat, and Shawn Williamson, of course. You know, doors always open to you. To our producer, Joe Montaldo. He's like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, taking care of us. Huge thank you to Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring the show. Thank you for having the faith in us. We really appreciate that. Remember to stop by International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, and the other one. Just saying.
Extraterrestrials.
That one. And while you're there, head on over to Facebook. Find us at the Outer Realm on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to drop us a line, maybe you want to be on the show, maybe you know someone who wants to be on the show, maybe there's a topic you'd like to see, or maybe you just, you know, have something nice to say or not so nice to say. Well, not so nice and go to Joe Montaldo, but the nice thing is to go to the Outer Realm contact@gmail.com. It's the Outer Realm contact@gmail.com. Please do not forget to go over to podcastawards.com and find us, the Outer Realm, under social and culture category. Also, People's Choice Awards. Yes, guys, we've been bumped up. So please vote, hopefully for us, and we love you. And please don't forget about our peers at Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast under Educational Storyteller Drama category. Also, People's Choice. Centralist with Joe Montaldo, Science and Beyond, Science category. And of course, tomorrow night, join us again, because for the very first time ever, we have author Tom Conwell coming to the show. And he's got a series of books. He's going to be discussing UFOs, aliens, not abductions. We're getting deep into some other stuff. So you're not going to want to miss it. So thank you very much. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Till then, y'all behave. Joe might be sleeping.
Supposed to play the promo.